Next morning, and as an afterthought, I'd already put stuff up, and I was like, you know what? I better put something down in case the Bobcat leaks down. Bobcat's kind of wedged in here, so it's not like I could move it. You know, it's blocked by the Suburban on jack stands, the stuff over there, truck here, and the bed here. And so I kind of had to leave it sitting over the bed, and the hydraulics were up when I started, or when I left it. But just out of precaution, I threw that 4x4 on the bed rail, and sure enough, I don't think it would have you know, it leaked down slow, so it's not like it would have slammed into it, but it still would have set down on the bed rail and possibly scratched it. So it was nice to have that board there. So like I said, next morning, we've got all the parts we should need. I think the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and hook the muffler up while we've got the gas tank out of the way. That way, if I need to do some welding or anything, we don't have the gas tank here, and it's easier to get in here and work because you can step right up to it instead of leaning over the gas tank. So I picked up a glass pack, and I just did a glass pack because that's what I could get cheap, local, and it's 2 1/4 is what the pipe measure. I actually thought the input was 2 1/2 on this one, and then the output was 2 1/4 originally, and I checked it, and it's 2 1/4 each. And so we'll need to I think I'm going to order, I think I can get a tailpipe for like $30, so I'll probably go ahead and order a tailpipe. I think the muffler, the new one, is about the same length, so we shouldn't have an issue. What I'll try to do is kind of output it where the other one output, and that way the tailpipe should line up, because this was a stock setup. It may not have been the stock muffler, but it was the stock tailpipe up until that point, and it had gotten changed out because the end of it rotted out, and so that part was changed out, but that part was left. So we're gonna get that on real quick, and then we will proceed with getting the gas tank back in. And as you can see, this thing is rust free, nice clean frame, no issues, so nice to have Texas vehicles. So here's what I've got for the muffler. I'm about to clamp it in place. I took that tailpipe piece, that newer piece, and I cut it to make a downpipe, or downturn. So now we are technically legal. To be legal here, of course you gotta have a muffler, which you got a muffler, and it's gotta go past the cab and then have a downturn. And so I wasn't gonna put one. I was like, well, because I didn't want to buy one, and I didn't have any pipe, and I was like, well, shoot, I can just take that. I'm not going to use that little piece of tailpipe for anything. I might as well just take it and turn it into a downturn, and that's what we did. So the alignment is a little off from the original muffler. This is a straight through, or straight. There's no curve to it, or no angle to it. It's just straight. So I'm pretty much have to go the angle of the exhaust, and so that one was offset. I think we've got enough wiggle room. We're only talking about maybe 2-3 inches difference in where it is, and so I think when we get our tailpipe on there, it'll line up okay. So what I'm going to do is probably just kind of tack this piece on here. because I eventually want to put, I'll do a little more than a tack, because what I'll probably do is just cut, when I go to put the actual tailpipe on, I'll just cut the muffler off right after the weld, but so I can slip my tailpipe in there. I'm going to clamp this end and tack this one, and then I'll move this mount right here over one bolt hole and put a clamp. It had a muffler clamped holding, so I think if I move it over one bolt hole it should line up and we'll clamp it. So I'm going to go ahead and get all that done right now. Exhaust is on. It is, the downpipe is tacked. It's got the hanger that was used on the other exhaust. It's not OEM, but at some point this thing had a muffler put on it, and that's the hanger they put on it. I had to move it over one hole like I said I would. We tacked the, we clamped the muffler and tacked it, and then up where the converter pipe comes out, it was a little bit loose. I don't know if you can see it. Right. Ooh. Right there. I tacked it there because it was wobbling around a little bit. I might try to tighten that clamp, but I did put a little bead there just to keep it from wobbling. This converter still has some chunks in it. I tried to fish them out with a long piece of wire. They weren't coming out, so I'm sure they're probably going to break apart and come out, and so this glass pack is straight through, so we shouldn't plug up or anything. It should, you know, send them straight on out the exhaust. I just tacked the turnpipe, the down turn on, and that way when I get my full tailpipe, all I got to do is grind those little tacks off and slip my new tailpipe in and probably clamp it. So on to the back to the gas tank. I sprayed some rust converter on that yesterday, where the bracket was rusty, so got that converted. Should keep it from rusting. We need to get the new tank back in here, or back out here. I put it in the shop last night. We've got our new sending unit. I've compared it to the old one. They are the same. So that is ready to go on. I bought some new spring clamps because I don't want to put screw type clamps. We want to keep a constant pressure on these hoses because we can't get to them to retighten them if they start leaking. So the spring clamps should keep a good tension on them. I'm going to look at my old ones. My old ones are probably better than these if they're not rusty and fatigued. So I bought these to have them, but we may not use them. We've got new hose. I had 3/8. I bought some 1/4 and 5/16 for the return and the vent line. 1/4, 5/16, and 3/8. So we're going to replace those. I'll cut hose the same length as the old ones were when we go to put it up in there. So we are now ready to bring the old tank or the new tank out. We're going to orientate the sending unit. So if you've got the filler neck on your right, the sending unit will be pointing away from you, so that when it goes into the vehicle, it's pointing towards those fuel lines. So I'm going to bring the new tank out. I'll set up the time lapse, and we're going to start trying to get some progress done on this. figured I'd stop and give you all an overview before I put it in the truck. So the if you look at the old tank, you can see where the straps are, and I don't know if the straps bent them down or if it was made like that. And this one's not that much, but the new tank, this lip sticks out even more. It's got less of a turn down on it, and so to get the straps to fit, I had to bend this lip down a little bit where the straps were, or where the straps are, and that's where you saw me beating on the tank, and it doesn't hurt it. I just bent that lip down a little bit, and the straps I think bent it down even more once I tightened the straps down. So, and then this strap over here was still a little short, so what I did is I put a punch right here and used my hammer, and that kind of not stretched the strap, but helped bend it in place to fit. And then I got a couple threads showing, started my bolt, tightened it down, and then had to take it back off to put my washer on there because there wasn't enough threads at first to get the washer and the nut. So once I tightened it down and kind of formed the strap and probably bent that lip a little more, then I was able to take it back off, put the washer on, and tighten it back down. So they're tightened down. You don't want to go overkill, just get them where they're pretty snug. This where the material was missing, I put it's some kind of a fiber pad. I don't know, I've got a whole package of them. Use them to soak up spills and stuff, but they should work good for a tank strap. So got that in there, and now I measured the distance. You can move these around. You know, the straps give enough, and since they're on those pads too, that you can knock these brackets, you know, a little bit left, right, whatever, to make it line up. But just to get a pre-measurement, I measured between the two, measured between here, and kind of got them where they measured the same. They should be fairly close so that we can get some bolts started. I don't think I'll use the jack. This thing's really light. It's got no gas in it. So I think what I'll be able to do is just set it up in there. These tank straps stick out through the hole in the bed, and so I should be able to kind of stick those in these holes and hold my leg up against the tank. I might go ahead and put the jack on it just to make it easier. So we'll probably just go ahead and put the jack on it. That way I can do the hoses and stuff before I bolt it up. But I'm gonna go ahead, I'll set up time lapse again. We're gonna cut the hoses to length as the new hoses to the same length as old ones, and get those started on there before we get the tank lifted up. Figured I would show you all close up before I put the bed back on. We've got everything bolted up. I went ahead and did everything I needed to underneath except for the bed, of course, or the bed bolts and everything. But everything with the gas tank, skid plate, all that is tightened up. Sending unit's hooked up and it's working. Fuel lines, new fuel lines are hooked up. I used the old spring clamps. They seem to be in good shape. And of course the exhaust is done. Went ahead and started it up, let it run for a little bit, made sure I had no fuel leaks. Of course made sure the sending unit was working, all that kind of stuff. So I want to put some gas in it, put in what I pulled out the other tank and then another little can worth. So I've got a few gallons in it. So all we need to do now is go ahead and put the bed back on it. I'm going to get some of this stuff cleared out of the way and get some help, and we will lift the bed up and set it down on the chassis frame. It is in, or on. I gotta put the bolts in it. And we did that, I think, without putting any scratches in the bed. Now I'm just gonna throw those 4 bolts in there. The camera's getting low on battery, so I'm gonna go plug it up and put all the bed bolts back in and put the spare tire back up under it, and plug lights in, stuff like that, and tidy up some of this wiring in the back where they had trailer lights. I'm just going to undo all that wiring that they did, and if I ever want trailer lights, I'll get one of the adapters that actually plugs into the wiring harness instead of all the splicing that's been done. I ran up the road station. I didn't fill it up, I just put 10 gallons in it. I'll fill up at Buc-ee's, but I need to go to the quickest station. Not to the floor or anything. Just figured I would let y'all listen to the exhaust. It sounds pretty good. It's not droning too bad. The problem is it's going to get louder. Glass packs always get louder, and so I can live with it like it is. I mean, it's a whole lot quieter than it was, with the blown out muffler. So it's good. So anyway, thanks for watching.